Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. It is after 6 in the evening. What is wrong with me? I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus, which is bringing you 5.8G Alive. And with me, as usual, this evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, the other co-creator of Connections 50 Plus.
Now,
Terry-Ann.
we are getting into an exciting phase. We are beginning to look at, all of us in transition. We are on this great 5.8G stage, but many people have come here differently. And we have focused a lot on those of us who've retired and therefore let the world of work and gone on. But we are going to start to look at people who we are calling self-formed. We're not saying entrepreneur, we're not saying professional, we're not saying nothing. Self-formed, and who really continually morph and change in life to fit into circumstances. And we have some amazing stories lined up for you. And today we're starting with one of our local stars, not so, Jennifer?
Local icon. Yes, definitely. We're really very proud, Terry-Ann. All our guests, not one I can think of, Terry-Ann, that hasn't come and just made a difference in terms of the topic area. They are all, very well informed about the topic. And we get such great feedback. So it's always a pleasure when we have guests, and of course, guests like the one we're going to have now.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, you all remember who the cap fits? Remember? You remember the young girl who had the affair with the teacher? We are talking to none other than Joanne Kilgour, one of the pioneers in one of the rebels breaking the mold. So listen, let's sit down and take in this beautiful discussion with Joanne Kilgour about her transition journey.
Right? Terry-Ann, of course, they know as Joanne Kilgour, and she's now Joanne Kilgour Dowdy. Yes.
So let's get into our tribe and take in this. Yes, tell us about that piece of batik at the back of you.
Okay, so the piece of batik is with me more than 30 years. I carry it wherever I go. My sister was with me when I bought it. My sister and brother. I think there was some kind of cultural fair at Mokorapo Secondary School. I was visiting from the United States where I was studying.
Yeah.
So since my brother and sister died, this is like my good luck symbol that I take everywhere.
Beautiful.
I wrap it as a skirt. I use it as a shawl. I wrap it in my head, but it's always in my presence.
Yes.
Remember that they are always with me as long as I call their names. And so I am strengthened in my resolve to get up and make a contribution to the day.
Okay.
That's the story of that batik. And then, are you seeing this? This thing is hanging over a piece of plywood. I bought that in Jamaica when I last saw my aunt in 2004, and she died on August 23rd, last August. Again, another amulet.
This is the one with butterflies on it.
Huge butterflies.
Yes, that's the one I'm seeing.
These are my amulets, and as long as I have them with me, I feel like I'm safe in the world. I'm living out of 2 suitcases. I gave up my apartment in Florida. I gave away everything. decided that I would come to Trinidad, check on my aunt. If I did like it, I would stay a long time. If I didn't, I would leave my aunt better off than I found her. She's 83 alone.
Yeah.
And I think she's doing very well, and she's in good hands with friends. So I can start planning my return to the United States
Okay, beautiful.
with an easy mind.
That context is so relevant for so many of us at this stage in our lives, where
Yes.
we are responsible for relatives, be they blood relatives or just pumpkin vines that are very, very strong. And now we may live somewhere else, we may live here, or it may be that we within proximity, but we just can't be in the same physical place as that relative. And that responsibility is ours. And as you mentioned, once you've identified how the care is going to be managed, it's really only then that you can, all right, I can relax. I can.
Right.
And that
Because
is
I kept telling people I'd rather go than wish I had gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I was away when my dad died. I was away when my brother died, when my sister died. And I thought, well, you're not working. You're not in school studying. You could sit in Florida and watch your toenails grow, but then what would be the valid reason for not going to see for yourself and sleep better, knowing what the deal really is?
We are looking at self-formed persons who really created their own path, created their own lives, and now doing a peek into what is this, how is that transition onto the third act stage from the 50s into the 60s into the 70s and beyond, because we have to project, and hearing the stories. And I think it is great that we have you on, because as I said, for many of our generation, you would be amongst the first of us, meaning Trinidadians, in particular Afro-Trinidadians, that we would have seen on television in works created by us, Horace James, and that whole initiative. So we would have been all within a 10-year age group. So you, as you presented on those soap operas or whatever we would have called them, would have represented us. So I think it would be a very, very pleasant experience for our viewers seeing you with us and talking about how that transition, that life, those stories, because I think they would have identified. So we really want to thank you for agreeing to be here, Jennifer.
Yeah, definitely the name, I actually, knew, and sister was Debbie, right?
Yes.
Yes. So from those days, I'm going right back, right? Very, very early days. So I also knew Debbie. I didn't know your brother, I can't recall your brother, but I knew Debbie well. And of course, you would know me, but as Tarian mentioned, someone on the stage, very creative, your name. I mean, right through Trinidad, you mention your name and everybody say, yeah, Joanne Kilgour. Yeah. So, I mean, it is really a pleasure having you here with us. I can easily relate, and I agree with Terry, and I know many within our age group, as your name mentioned, as they see you now, they say, oh, I remember.
I remember.
They would remember, but for those who may not know you or may not have remembered those days, yeah, you can share with us from that story.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think people stop and talk to me on the street, at events, because they remember seeing Who the Cat Fits. And that was the series funded by Banyan Television.
Produced it, but they didn't fund it.
With Christopher Laird, that was the one with Christopher Laird.
Was the filmmaker. Tony Hall was the director and actor. Bruce Paddington was the producer. John Isaacs was in the cohort. Christine George, all these people, and Family Planning Association.
Yes.
Was a major event because we got funded to do this lengthy series. And that means we had to develop characters over a whole spectrum of experiences.
Mhm.
And it introduced young Afro-Trinidadians and Indo-Trinidadians to the public as actors. And it was my first glimpse into the world of professional theater.
Yes.
Film was something I hadn't even imagined in my young brain. And I had the chance to play Margaret Cruikshank,
Yes.
who was a real hot spot, so far from my normal life, and said things that I wouldn't dare shape my mouth to say to family or teachers, and had an affair with her teacher, Albert Laveau.
Yes.
So people memorized that face. And as with TV, as I have memorized yours, Terry Ann, and I will meet you anywhere and know you because TV affords up that close-up view.
People do that to Jennifer and I now.
Jennifer and you, they spot you. They spot you from across the parking lot because it's ingrained in your cells.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first chance to work with professionals, to think of myself as a professional actor because I was paid, I was under contract. My guardians had to sign the contract because I was underage. But from that point on, from 16 on, I have talked about myself as a professional actor. So by the time I got to enter Juilliard in New York to train, which always seemed to me quite the reverse of what should happen in an actor's life. Like I did the gig, then I got the school degree. I always used to tell people, I'm just here to collect the license. I'm driving already. I've been driving. You know, so a lot of things didn't faze me, didn't upset me. I always had in my head and my heart, I was going home to act. I was going home to contribute to the development of Trinidad's professional theater. And so I was a tourist. I was passing through. At Juilliard, I was not, to me, used as fully as I would have liked to be. Of course, all actors would say that. You want to be the lead, you want to be the second lead, you want to be important in the production. But because their syllabus was focused on Eurocentric classics, Chekhov, Shakespeare. When we did Ethel Fugard from South Africa, it was a huge change. And that is the work that I got to do on television representing Juilliard when they were 80 years old, which is now, I think, 40 years old if you look at the film.
John, if we could just set timelines, who the cat fits? Did that air during the 70s or the 80s?
It would be during the 70s. Because if I was 16, it was middle 70s. If I was 80, we're still in the 70s.
So it was right 70s. After Black Power and in
oh my God, we were so full of our blackness and our beauty and our identity.
With your natural afro and everything else.
Right, which almost killed my mother when I came home with my braids cut and my afro standing proud. Like Angela Davis had absolutely no effect on her ire. She spent so many years pressing that hair to keep it growing and make it nice and smooth and easy to control. And I come home with my afro. I was wise though. I braided up the hair when I came home from the barber, so she didn't get the instant shock. But over the days, you had to take it out and pull it out.
But Joanne, at that time also, you were involved not only in dramatic presentations through film, but you were also a dancer.
I was a dancer. That's where I was heading when I was at the Caribbean School of Dancing. I was under Marcia Moves, Patricia Rowe, later Noble Douglas, and eventually Norleen Metivier, who campaigned for my scholarship from Sir Derek Walcott in drama. Because I was told at 18, I was too old to pursue a dance career. So I can't say I cast about. Somebody invited me to do a Banyan workshop. And I went down to the meeting at Tranquility School one Saturday and started going to Banyan meetings. And the next thing you know, I was scripting scenes to be filmed for TTT, and
yes,
so it went. But that's how I met Derek Walcott. Sir Walcott
yes,
was through my work in Banyan Television. And I
Okay.
was fortunate to stay in his home my first year in Boston when I got the scholarship to start
very
studying
nice.
drama. So I stayed with him and his family for a year, and then I auditioned and got into Juilliard and moved to New York.
Beautiful.
I'm still
sure
very
that-
close to Norlene Metivier, his third
Yeah.
wife.
I'm sure that our one of our serious partners and sponsors, Errol Fabian of Gaia, is going to be totally thrilled and
Errol must be
He
jumping up and down. He
kicking his
remembers
heels
when
knowing
we
that this
acted, we
interview
did a
is
radio
happening.
interview, and I did a move on him, and he stopped, froze. He could not move. He could not move. He could not say another word. He couldn't read the script. It was just so mind-blowing that I went there because I had just come home from studying theater for 2 years, I think.
I can't believe
all
somebody
these
made a move
tools.
on Errol Fabian and Errol Fabian froze.
He will live to
Pay
tell the
attention.
story. He will
Errol,
live
we
to
will
tell
talk.
the story. And he called me a radical the next time he had the chance to talk about me in public. That radical, Joanne Kilgour.
One thing is very clear, Joanne, is that from very, very early, those in the theater recognize your skill and your talent. And so from very early that you are, as a young girl, as you said, you started very early with the working with Who the Cap Fit. And I think because of that, you were pushed to call all the names, the names of those who really started theater, all the production. And would you say that propelled you, that support you got, propelled you, although you felt that, or they felt at the time that 18 may have been too old to start your dancing career, you were still allowed to give them that opportunity to move further. Do you think too it's because of that support you got from that group?
Oh, I know for sure. I'm writing a memoir now of 25 years of my life, starting from the year of my brother's suicide to the year that I retire from teaching college. And on the cover of that book, which I've decided to call Memorabilia, is a picture of me at Newtown Girls, probably waist high, with my 2 braids and my bows, my little pointy tip shoes and ankle length socks, and I'm telling a story. Now, the woman behind that was Mrs. Cole, and second in command was Mrs. T.B. Walker. And they trained me at Newtown Girls. So I was entering the arts festival.
Okay.
So by the time Banyan got hold of me, I had been through the foundation training to make me confident. And I got the physical training through the dance at Caribbean School of Dancing. So they actually got what we are still trying to create through the National Academy of the Performing Arts. So if we began where I began in Newtown Girls and started training our theater practitioners and putting them through the training that I received, we would be doing the work that those, I call them those pioneers in elementary school, they already knew you had to be a rounded artist. They knew you had to dance and sing and act. And they weren't shy about putting up people they felt could deal with that intimidating experience of facing an audience, facing a group of strangers and feeling quite comfortable. I was quite comfortable.
Yeah, I always say, and Jennifer would bear me out of this, it is so important for us as we are now the grandmas.
Yes.
Aunties. I'm an auntie. So if you're not a grandma or your auntie, the music festival and drama festival still exist. And we do an injustice to our youth by not giving them that opportunity to perform in front of an audience. And the safest place to do it is while you're in primary school. So instead of taking every other hour to shove lessons down their throats, let them do choral speaking, let them go into the choir, let them do dancing. I know there is that side of it where we may not accept the arts as a legitimate place to focus your education and development, because people are, I think it's less, but it's still bad. They're still skeptical. But I am speaking here about just the experience of having a young person on stage performing for an audience, not necessarily think as a sideline. The confidence it gives, they get an opportunity to know, I can do this and I've done it and I got applause. It does something to their self-definition, their self-worth, that allows them to go on in the world and take risk, reasonable risk. And I just think it's so important. I think most people that I know who have been successful in their youth somewhere had the experience to present a talent to the public somewhere. That's just a little thing that I have, and I think it's so important.
And nothing is wrong, which is how we grew up in Carlos Street in Woodbrook. We cleared out my grandmother's living room and we made a stage and we put an audience against the wall, and the children in the street had a chance to come up and do their piece. And one little boy, my mother never forgot, and I always tell this story. He came up on stage, he looked very nice. His mother scrubbed him clean and polished him, and he said, "Big boy's boots go stomp, stomp, stomp." And he froze. That was it. That was it. My mother always told a story. Don't forget so-and-so who did that. We never knew where the poem came from and what it was supposed to say. But we do know you do not go on stage and freeze and have an audience look at you waiting for the end of your poem. I bet he turned out to be a
in front of an interview.
I bet he turned out to be a wonderful speaker wherever he was in life. He never froze again.
I know he remembered that day.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So John, let's get it. I mean, all of that is memorable, really, and that is why I think you're such a good host for our show, because the phase that we're taking 5.8G Alive in is we are looking at our professionals who we call self-formed, because yes, many of us have worked somewhere and we've retired or are planning to retire, and it's okay, I'm done with that, I'm going on. But in your life, you've always been, although you could tell us about your professional career as a lecturer, a professor at the university, but you continue to shape yourself. So let's hear, what was the path Joanne took from her 20s to 30s to 40s to 50s to 60s?
How much tape do we have? How much tape do we have?
Just give us a short preview of that so we know how you've ended up here.
Remember that we were forming in the teens, right? We were coming to think of ourselves as a certain way, certainly as an artist. I'm thinking of myself as an artist. And so I graduate from Holy Name Convent and my first job is at the bank. And so I quickly understand that is not your work in life. No matter how stable they say it is, no matter how much of a good husband you'll meet somewhere in the break room, no matter how much of a good car you will get a loan to buy and pay till you die, it's all right. That's not my life. So I found a job at Providence Girls School teaching drama. And of course, the question to the professionals was, what does she know about drama? And what can she teach young people? Well, I managed to get through that event without pie on my face or freezing on the stage after saying one line. And I decided to make my fate worse in the eyes of the aunties and the grandparents. I joined Banyan as a full-time. Clearly, this child was under some kind of intoxication.
Clearly the 70s broke you.
Clearly this child needed her mother in her life. Poor thing, you know, look at how defenseless she is. Joined Banyan.
You would have been labeled a rebel.
Sorry?
I say you would have been labeled a rebel.
Well, that's where the radical probably began. But listen to me. I learned about video long before anybody could spell the word. I learned about production ages before anybody had a cell phone and started pointing and shooting every time they blinked.
Yeah.
It's very boring to me that everybody thinks it's wonderful to take pictures and make movies because yawn.
Yeah.
I'm 50 years ahead of that game.
Mm-hmm.
So without going to Banyan to work as a full-time member of their crew and getting to go out on film shoots every and anywhere and meet people, I would not have met Sir Derek Walcott. And I would not have had the opportunity to audition. I didn't know I was auditioning. We did the rig and everybody said it was rigged because only 2 people got paid and the rest still waiting on their check. Anywho, I was on the way to Boston to start my theater training and to live in the house with Sir Derek Walcott and his family and to beg, borrow, and besiege my brother and Dr. Jenny Rouse to take out a loan so I could pay my expenses.
Yes.
So I had this weight on my shoulders. I was never a carefree artist going off into the world to paint pictures of fairies dancing on pinheads.
Yes.
I was a working artist who had responsibilities. So I had a responsibility to Sir Derek Walcott. It was the first scholarship he gave when he won the prize for the Genius Prize, the MacArthur Genius Prize. Myself and Benny Gomes, who is still doing lighting all over the world. He's an ambassador for the Olympics. We were the first 2 to win scholarships from Sir Derek Walcott. So while I'm doing my first year training in Boston, I know I have to pay back this loan. It wasn't a gift, it was a loan. I know the government is not going to give me a scholarship to study theater. And I know there's nowhere in Trinidad where I can come and practice theater when I'm done with that degree. The mind is always working about how do you make this practical? So we go on to Juilliard, we graduate, and we realize the only roles out there are for maids and prostitutes. That's a generalization, but I've said it enough times since I left Juilliard for it to be truth to me and for others to identify with what I'm saying. And I have said, and if you look at Juilliard at 80, the film clips they used for the television program, I say to my director, I did not leave Trinidad where I could have done a role carrying a basket on my head to come to Juilliard and do a role carrying a basket on my head.
Yeah.
So I've been saying it long enough for it to be truth, facts to me. So I left Juilliard and I got a job teaching drama at a private school in Manhattan. And after a year and using all my skills to work with young people in their teens, I went back to school and did a master's degree in teaching English. Not English as a second language, English that we study English in our classrooms. Then I met my future husband through the teacher who was directing me. So one must ask, what exactly was she directing you in teaching students or finding a husband? People go to school for an MRS. It's quite acceptable. They leave their first degree with either two certificates or one. I left with my Juilliard degree, my Teachers College, Columbia University degree, and then I earned an MRS. So I moved. I was extremely successful. I now had a way of paying back the loan because I had a teaching certificate. And I went to North Carolina and I taught drama at a high school. And I realized my most talented students were not reading and writing on grade level. They were exceptionally spontaneous, exceptionally good at characterization. They could carry the play, but put them in a classroom, they made trouble. They were thrown out. They were bad mouths in the teacher's lounge. They missed school because family life was just chaos. but they would hide in Miss Dowdy's classroom.
And
So when
isn't
they
that the
send them
story
out,
so many of our
they
talents?
would find
Yeah.
a way to get into Miss Dowdy's classroom and
Yeah.
hide.
Mhm.
And being the indulgent mother that I have always been for children who are like me and would rather not sit still and stare at teachers at the front of the room who think they are cute, but they are not.
Mhm.
Those were my children. So I tell people I have 400 children when they
Yes.
ask. And then I explain I've been teaching for 40 years. So
Wow.
10 a year over 40 years is what I allow myself. They still
Yes.
remember that teacher if they don't remember the name.
Yes, yes.
So after that, realizing they couldn't read and write on grade level and that would keep them back, I went to do the PhD, studying how to teach reading and writing. So I could train teachers how to do reading and writing. And I did my dissertation on mature women who left high school for one reason or the other, either dropped out due to family circumstances, they were pregnant, or they had to take care of their siblings and could not manage. Or like my talented students, nobody really took the time to understand what they needed and help provide that in the school setting. So they had raised their children, sent them to college, and then decided they were going back to school to get their high school diploma.
Yeah.
That's the group that I wrote about. That's the group.
Beautiful.
Because I understood my high school students were heading straight into that lane. And in 20 years, they'd be the ones decide, I'm going back to
Yeah.
school.
Mhm.
I've done all these things. This can't be difficult. I can manage it. That's the group that I wanted to be close to. So that began my career as a professor and my research career. So up to today, I've done, you have to look at the site, maybe 17 books, mostly about Black women and education. And then I started getting brave once I got tenured and I could do what I want and not be crouching in the background, peeping out of a hole. I started looking at teachers who used arts-based instruction in their classroom and training my teachers to use arts-based instruction in their classrooms. So instead of being the sage on the stage, which is the way that we've been raised, the way that we have been trained to believe education takes place, I encourage them to be the guide on the side. Figure out what the student needs, supply those needs, and then invite them to join in that discovery of their own creativity, their own logic. They have tremendous logic, right? So I think we got up here and then I retired in 2020. I had put in my papers to leave in May 2020. And in March 2020, COVID hit and they sent us home. So I got to go home and teach online, which I absolutely hate and will not embark on unless you pay me huge money, because actually it turns out to be one-on-one coaching. So people complained about COVID lockdown and the time alone. I was in absolute bliss.
Yes.
I had my downtime. I had my quiet space. I did not have to get dressed in 3 layers and go out into the winter, 6 months, 7 months for me, because I'm a tropical fish. And I started writing my memoirs. So I'm now on the 8th draft of my memoir that started in 2020. And I'm now sequestered in my room in Trinidad, enjoying the luxury of waking up with bright sun outside.
Yes.
And blooms on every tree I walk by. And now and then stopping to engage with someone who thinks they know me, but don't know if they know me. And I'm not telling them if they know me.
Joanne, I want to congratulate you, of course, with your writing, but I would like to go back a bit. You have been doing and still doing very powerful, work that, we talk about it or you hear about it. It is so needed to empower others, especially in the mature woman. Right? What I would like to ask, and I know, I mean, you have been doing a lot of research in that area also. What would you say in terms of those who have reached this stage, those who transitioning from that, whether it's from being a homemaker, seeing your adult children now going off on their own and having now to make a decision or decide, what do I do with my life at this stage as I age? From your research, what would you say? What's happening within that group in terms of transitioning?
I think the first thing on my list is, what has been your burning passion? You may even have forgotten it. You have denied it. You don't even know there is a burning passion because you have been so lobotomized. You bought what I call the lie. Remember, I was the child who left the bank and went to teach. Then left the teaching job and went to work with the film crew. You have a burning desire. There is a talent. There is a leaning towards something that has been denied. It has been crushed. It has been ignored. Do the soul searching to find what that is. Where did you put it down? Where did you forget it? Where did you put a blanket over it? For the children, for the job, for the relationship, for getting over, for getting up. Where did you put it down? Can you go back and resurrect it? Can you go back and befriend it? Can you be the person who makes it a safe place to bring it home, that it will be safe with you? Was it cooking? Was it sewing? Was it running a marathon? Were you one of the people picked up a guitar and could pick a tune? I don't know what it was. Was it writing? You wrote every day. You wrote on every scrap of paper available. You hid it because you were not encouraged to do that thing. It was a waste of time, quote unquote, okay? Go and make friends with that denied piece of you, buried piece of you. Did you like making up people? Did you like cutting up curtains and making clothes or pieces of decoration? What was it? What was it? I feel all of us have that piece in us. To me, I could have been a seamstress. I love cutting up. Don't leave me in a room with bed sheets and curtains and covers for pillows. My aunt brought me 2 bags, cloth bags, that they use to put shoes in. So when you're traveling, you put and you draw the string and you put it away nice in your suitcase. Well, now they are 2 halter tops. And she almost passed out when I turned up in her bedroom wearing one.
Wearing the shoe bag.
Yeah. I was always a bag lady. I am so proud of my halter tops. So in me is the designer, the creator, the visionary, the make-do, because if you're going into the arts, make up your mind, you're going to be a poor person more than you're going to be anything else. Financially poor, which is what really makes a big difference in your lifestyle and your life choices. So I made up my mind when I went to Juilliard, I was going to be poor the rest of my life. And I decided, well, that means you're just going to have to make do, which was my mother's theme song. We make do. We buy a solo and we put in clim milk and we put it in the ice tray and we make ice cream. I grew up knowing how to make do. It never bothered me. I was 6th in line of the clothes that came down from the cousins. So they started in New York.
I can relate.
And it went to Jamaica and then it came to Trinidad. It had to go through my sister and then it got to me and then it went to 3 people behind me. So I just had panting breath that it got to me before it got out of style or it got worn out. This was, I still do it. I love thrift stores. I just went to a thrift store and this lady's telling me, that too big for you. I said, watch this. I put it on, I pulled it up over my tits and I zipped it and I said, do you like my dress? She couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
She could not stop laughing. I said, well, it's too big for my waist, but it fits me perfectly under my arms. So there's the creativity, there's the make do, there's the economic straightened circumstances that will make you see things in a whole different way than other people.
I think it is so good to get that reminder. And Jennifer, we know that one of our dear supporters, who you mentioned just now as one of your guardians, Dr.
Yes.
Jennifer Rouse, is on this show. She presented that as something that is so critical to our transition. Try to remember where you left that passion.
Where is
Put it down to see about the children, to pursue
Yes.
the job, to take care of the parents, when they got
Yeah.
lost in the competition, you know,
Yeah.
how you were fortunate in that you continued on your journey with your passion.
Yeah.
And it morphed, and you could see the development from dancer, drama, teaching, studying English, to then finding the passion of those children who had to find their way, and then dealing with their parents who, after they took care of the children, came back to say, all right, I need to take care of myself too.
Yeah.
Did you personally have that kind of transition as you grew older and you went through all these waves? We've seen what you were doing. What was happening in Joanne's mind in terms of your definition of self? Did it
Survival.
change?
Survival. The theme song of my life is survival.
Yeah.
How do we make it through this? That is the creative part of your being. So people always say it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you.
Yeah.
So you can get the degree and come home. And I asked at least two of my friends of many years when they said they were sending their children abroad to study dance. And then what? And they couldn't answer me. I said, are you sending them to study so they come home and sit on your sofa and watch TV for how many years? Because we have only so many dance schools. We have only so many slots for people to go and teach dance and the styles that they will be studying. What is the plan going forward? See, and I never let myself get in such a rut. I was given many gifts, and I was always open to the opportunity to explore a gift and to learn something about the gift. Because I didn't go and say, I want to go to study. Come, somebody give me a scholarship. No, people picked me up from where I was and said, you have to go and study. Now we're going to figure out how we're going to get you to study.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
when
clear
the
that you
next-
modified as you went along. You
have to be
modified
creative. Life
circumstances.
is a creative experience. If
And
you're
that's
not
the dance.
creative, you're falling asleep, and pretty soon they will put a blanket over you and use you as a table. My mother used to warn us, if you stay in a job 5 years, they will treat you like furniture.
I want to put a pin here and really make sure that we understand that when you say be creative, you are not talking about dance or drama.
No.
You are talking about using your mind to look at your environment, look at the opportunities, and see what is there that you can fit yourself into. Because so many of us think what I did yesterday has to be connected to what happens today and tomorrow. And sometimes there's a clean break, and we don't understand that our creativity allows us to find opportunities.
But I want to turn what you just said on its head,
Mhm.
and then she can come in and put the window
Yeah.
dressing on it. You are connected to what came before. You are the river running through the landscape. Whether the river is on top of the mountain or it's underneath the floor of the valley,
Yeah.
you are the connection. And you are creative all the time. I'm always surprised when I stop and compliment a woman and say, you look so pretty. And she looks at me in shock. And I say, you know, you wouldn't leave your house looking like a bag of old clothes. So why are you shocked that I'm saying you pulled it off? Congratulations, you look very nice.
Yeah.
And every single time it amazes me that we're not accustomed being celebrated, or we're not accustomed hearing it from another woman who is the most severe critic of how we are, which is how I started saying about you too. How well you look, how impressed I am with how you pull it off, right? So you are the connecting thread between back then and now. And I have yet to see a Trinidadian woman look bad, which means we are creative every single second of our existence.
Yes.
Going to bed with the wrap on the head to make sure the hair is perfect in the morning is creativity. Making sure that the pants is hemmed, it's not stapled, it's hemmed so that it falls perfectly over the ankle on the shoe.
And well pressed.
You must. You absolutely must. You will not leave that house if that shirt is not cutting the air on the side of the sleeve. We are creative every single second.
Yeah.
Every single second. I drive in the taxi, my best experience. I know I'm in Trinidad when I'm in a taxi from Independence Square to Diego Martin Main Road. If I don't do that, I'm not in Trinidad. And I look at our color schemes, our combination of, oh my God, it's mind-blowing. What we fashion, our design sense is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
We don't see it because we take it for granted.
Yeah.
We take it for granted. But if you spend 40 years in snow and all you see is gray and black and tan,
And brown.
we have a deep appreciation for all the colors of the rainbow in any combination that it appears. Okay, so now we can go to her reflection that I cut off.
John, I totally agree with you in terms of we are creative people, we are beautiful people. But you know what I see is an issue with us? One, and this is no judgment or blame on anyone. In growing up in our era, our creativity, we haven't been allowed to harness that creativity. You know, again, because of the education system, because of how we were taught that, yeah, you study hard and you go in the work in the bank, service, etc. Definitely, and not the creativity to us then meant you do dance or you do art, or you know that, and you don't get a job or you're not recognized for it. So for all the years, right through, many of us as parents also did that injustice to children who are very creative, and to some extent it's still being done. So when you reach on this stage that we are, yes, we have to now find where did we leave that. So it is new, it's like being something completely new. And we have to believe in ourselves, believe how important it is to find whatever we are creative in. Then really move and enjoy that stage in life. The other factor, which however you want to put it, that prevents us from really enjoying that creative stage is that, and you mentioned it, somewhere along the line, we have not been complimented, embraced, you know, being told how beautiful we are, how beautiful we look. And when we get a compliment, especially from a woman, as women, because we are normally told, oh, women fight each other. You have that as a narrative. So when you are complimented, you don't know how to take it. So we also have, when you ask, that we have to find where we left that creative self, where we left that skill, where did we leave it, and we have to find it. We also have within ourselves to find that appreciation of us. And we talk a lot about it on our show. How do we appreciate ourselves and accept that praise and that compliment without flinching? You know, somebody, you're kind of checking yourself to see
Yes,
what they're looking at.
yes.
In some
it's
cases,
true.
you
It's
respond
true.
to,
Just say yes.
yeah.
Thank you.
In
Yes,
some
thank you.
cases, you
You look
almost
good.
tend to respond negatively, and they might say, "You find so? I don't find so." You know, that type of thinking. So I'm glad you reinforce how important it is for us to find our creative self and embrace all the compliment. And we should also start doing it ourselves. So when you do it, and you get used to it, when someone tells you how great you look and you smile and you're happy, and it makes a difference to our energy. And so I just wanted to bring that home some more, you know.
Yeah. We have to keep loving on each other. I learned that term from another group that I was invited to work with. We have to keep loving on each other. And so much of our women's experience, I think, I theorize, is shaped through the lens of the male gaze. Why don't you think you're pretty? Some male in your life penetrated your love armor and convinced you are not pretty or pretty enough. And we carry this male gaze with us as the reflection of who we are. So we can't get that male gaze out of our system because the society reinforces the importance, the necessity, the reverence for the male gaze. Okay, and you can see it on the billboards in Trinidad. Look at what's on the billboards. Look at the faces. Look at the features. You can see the male gaze has organized the way we see ourselves or see not ourselves. So that's a long speech, but to be able to go into the space in yourself where you remember it was safe to be you and to like you and to be like for you is an ongoing journey. It is part of the excitement of transitioning. As we talk about transitioning, you don't have to wear high heels anymore. You're out of that office suite. You don't have to perm your hair anymore.
But Joanne, I want us to, that is something that we can go into for so long. And one of the characteristics that we consider our 5.8G tribe, that's our 50 to 80 group, is that we have evolved or are evolving. And the gaze that matters is that mirror hanging up wherever in our bedroom, in our bathroom.
Right.
You get up in the morning, whether you're stripped naked, you're half naked, you look at yourself and say, beautiful person you are. And you go on with that confidence through the day, making your choices. It really must, we have to work ourselves up to that. Must look at that lady in the mirror or look at that man, look at the belly, look at the breast, look at the butt, look at the arms that flap, look at whatever it is and accept it for what it is. And if you want to change it, you
go for
decide how you do it whenever you do it. But don't be bothered by external references. But John, we've got about 5 minutes again. This was so exciting and
5 minutes.
I want us to get a chance to talk about you now because I know you're a prolific author and you're working on your, as you mentioned before, your memorabilia. Could you talk a bit about this? Because I'm thinking this is what you are now, you're in your mid-60s and you are looking forward to that third stage, the 70 to 80. So what is Joanne doing now?
Joanne is waking at 3. She's writing at 4. She's doing her meditation at 5 and she's going out walking at 6 a.m. She comes home and she works on 5 pages minimum. Some days it's more, but 5 pages is the minimum. And this is the 8th draft. So I'm promising myself, don't change the story. You can fix a word, you can move the semicolon or put a period to break up that long sentence, but don't change the story.
Great.
And she's
Great.
going to be done with that draft by the end of September.
Mhm.
And she's going to pass it on to a friend who is a published author and ask her, where do I send this? If anyone's listening, call Terry Ann and tell her, I have a place. Joanne must send that.
I know the co-owner of Gael is a publisher, so you might get a call from Julie. Who knows?
Anyway, I want to do this book. I want to do a reading of this book to a group of women. So you organize the group and I will read the book. Because when you read a book out loud, it's very different to when you hear it in your head.
Okay.
So that's the next project while I'm here. And then I'm looking for a place to live in Florida. I just got email today that someone I know is renovating her garage apartment. I plan to keep living with 2 suitcases for the long
Yes.
into my 70s. It's so freeing.
Yes.
It's like you stop wearing a bra every day. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I used to think
You started to shed all the attachments.
I
You're
just
living free.
what I know is I've buried enough people and seen enough people buried that you never have a U-Haul behind the hearse. Never. I've never seen one. There's never going to be a chance where a U-Haul is hooked to the hearse. So I'm saving everybody a lot of drama. What the Jamaican they call it the dead left.
Yes.
If you want to see a family explode,
yes.
dead left, everybody's running and grabbing. And those who come last get the least. Okay. And we just see what this memoir does for Joanne's writing profile, because Joanne thinks she's a famous writer already. So she's just trying to fill up her bucket with these experiences, because I dreamt I was going to be interviewed, but I didn't know by who, and I didn't know on what program. And then your invitation came. And this is how I had lived my life. I dream it.
Yes.
I don't tell anybody because it spoils whatever magic.
Yes.
And then I watch to see how it comes
and it
to
manifests.
life. How does it manifest?
Kilgour, this was so fantastic and so phenomenal.
Oh, you give me goosebumps. I should send you a check in the mail. Tell me the address.
Jennifer, I shared a story with Joanne that as a young dancer with my little Liza, we used to look up at repertoire and all those people, and Joanne Kilgour was one of the dancers. We'd look at us as local trainees and doing stuff. So, it's always nice to be able to talk to one of your heroes. And this is what I'm doing right now. So
that is so amazing. And Joanne was being pounded like a cassava in a bowl by her teachers. Do it again.
There were dancers like me looking up to you and sending energy. That's what took you forward. So
you were every time, all your write-up, I mean, you are very, very successful, and definitely, as Terry Ann said, you are artist, a creative, professor, someone to really look up to. And many people don't like to be termed like a role model, but I would consider you a very, very powerful role model, and for the work you have done, especially for women. I mean, this program is for both men and women, but they say behind every good man is a woman. So I just want to thank you again. And I know this is not the end of us, connecting with each other.
Yes. Yes.
And, we look forward to maybe having you on the show again. And when
that
we
would
do
be
a bit
lovely.
of the reading. So
that would be lovely. I can come and read something from my memoir. Yes.
Great.
I wanted to share a quote that was given to me. Now it would probably be almost 40 years ago when I met my spiritual instructor. He said, "Only the jeweler knows the jewel." And I consider you 2 jewelers to have found this jewel and to polish it and present it to your audience. So I can't say enough thanks, and God bless and keep you safe as you do this journey that is so important to all of us, becoming who we were meant to be, who we are destined to become. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
What a discussion, Jennifer.
You know, it is very, as you say, happening when you hear someone who's so creative from our, I have to say, from our time, and who have shown that creativity with you, that creative talent, builds your self-confidence in so many ways and take you right through out, you know, in Joanne's case, to academia. Because in the earliest, you have this concept that if you're creative, that's it. Like you're stuck. You're
No,
stuck.
no.
You can't go into different fields.
That was a
So,
50s, 60s,
you know,
70s thing. Children of the
and when
90s
you
done with that.
listen, and I was then, and we are at this
Yeah.
stage. And you know, it is really great to know, and for
Yeah.
Joanne has proven it.
Yeah.
That that's not so.
Yeah.
You
And
know, that's
also,
not so at all.
when you think of how many of our children and grandchildren have gotten scholarships on sports scholarships, on
Yeah.
creative scholarships, a lot of us understand now that, listen, the non-academic side, I think there are probably more sports athletes and, and artists out there than there are academic scholars. Not putting down
And
academic
you
scholars,
must say,
but
I mean, Joanne is one of the persons who paved the way,
exactly.
you know, for
Exactly.
those that have been able to have been successful,
Yes.
you know, as creatives in different areas. Yeah.
So we hope you had a wonderful time today, and keep viewing, because next week it's going to be another one of our cell phone persons. And remember, yes, our road trip is on. It is on. And you will hear more about that next week. So until then, bye.
Bye.
50 Plus Tribe and follow us from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.